Week 7 is here. We are already approaching the midseason mark, and we have a lot to talk about. From game breakdowns, predictions, power rankings, best bets, you name it, we have it. It's a one-stop shop, and Amir is joining the show, so buckle up. We got a lot to talk about. Let's start on Thursday night, and in most terms, out of most weeks, this is a game that we avoid because there's not much to talk about. It's going to be ugly, but there's a lot of historical things that we can watch out for tonight. First off, it is the second time in NFL history that two quarterbacks north of 40 years old are playing in the same game. Joe Flacco for the Bengals and Aaron Rodgers for the Steelers. Speaking of Aaron Rodgers, he is one win away from tying Tom Brady for the most Thursday night wins in NFL history as a quarterback. And he's also 234 yards away from passing Tom Brady for the most passing yards by a quarterback on Thursday night in NFL history. So, Amir, expect Aaron Rodgers to ball out tonight. That's all I'm saying. You see the numbers. These are bottom five offenses, defenses across the board, but one of them's 4-1 and the other is 2-4 with all the quarterback questions in the world. Amir, your thoughts on this ugly Thursday night AFC North affair?
So this game is going to be a bit ugly. I'm concerned about Cincy. Flacco didn't look bad last week. Remember, he flew in on Tuesday, practiced the week, but it's hard to adjust to that. I mean, this Bengals team does look like they have no more hope, no motivation out there. Like Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, bad body language. The defense still sucks. And I wouldn't be surprised if Zach Taylor's job is on a hot seat personally.
I've been saying it for years. It needs to be.
Yeah, seriously, and it's like even though Burrow's been hurt, for a lot of his tenure, it's a lot of issues where even last year, I thought as bad as the defense was, they still could have made the playoffs. But Zach Taylor started the season off slow once again, and so really, I think this would be a huge tell for his job. I think Pittsburgh wins this pretty easily. I think the Bengals offense, will be standstill at times. Pittsburgh's defense is trending, but I think this will honestly be a high scoring game. I know the original total line was at like 41.5. I think it goes over.
Yeah, sneaky. It could be a high scoring game. And just be wary if you're betting a side on this game. We've had 2 straight weeks of upsets on Thursday Night Football. I'm staying away from the side, man. I will bet a lot of player props, and we'll talk about that later on. But let's move to Monday Night Football with a highly anticipated matchup, arguably the best two teams in football. We have the Tampa Bay Bucks with a mountain of injuries going to Detroit, Ford Field, where they score a mountain of points. This should be a very exciting affair. Of course, again, maybe the best two teams in football. For Detroit, you're coming off of that embarrassing Sunday night outing against the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead. But you're back at home now. We know that the Lions are a completely different team when they're on their home turf, and they score a lot of points. Now, you never want to doubt Baker as an underdog, but there might just be too many hurdles for him to get over in this one. You have no Emeka Ibuka, no Chris Godwin, maybe no Mike Evans, and if he's out there, he will be limited. There's not, and no Bucky Irving as well. There's a lot of injuries around Baker Mayfield. Is there any chance that he could pull off an upset on Monday night in Ford Field, Amir?
Honestly, I don't see it here. I've been underrating Baker. I mean, not underrating, but sort of being realistic with him. And he has been playing unrealistic. Like, if you're to sit here and tell me this guy is 5-1, this team is 5-1 with how trash the defense is, with how banged up their O line is, with Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and now Emeka out. I wouldn't have, thought they were going to be 5-1. But I think this week it'll be too much. The Lions are pissed off. They lost last week. Brian Branch is out. I think this will also be another shootout, high scoring game. But I just think, all these injuries are just too built up at this point. Like, quite literally, you have no one to throw to. I mean, honestly, if you're betting on Baker's rushing yards, go over because he's going to get blitzed. He's going to get pressured. This O line won't be able to really block this Kelvin Shepard scheme with all these stunts and stuff and blitzes. And so I just see the Lions winning this with ease. To be honest, I think it might be close to first half, maybe the first 3 quarters. But that fourth quarter, this Lions offense is going to be way too much.
Where? Okay. No matter win or lose, I think we can walk away after 7 weeks of football saying Baker Mayfield might be the MVP of the league so far. He's up there with Jonathan Taylor in my books. Now, Amir, every single week when we talk about teams on bye, I've been asking you the same couple of questions. I think I know the answer to those questions this week. So instead, what I want to do is just get your overall thoughts on the Bills, on the Ravens. Both these teams need a bye week. The Bills have lost 2 games in a row that they, on paper, shouldn't have lost. And for the Ravens, you're now getting Lamar Jackson back into this offense, which they're a completely different unit when a top 3 player in the world is running the show. Out of these 2 teams, Amir, I just want your overall thoughts. Is there any hope for Baltimore to make a playoff push? And should Buffalo still be looked at as a Super Bowl contender?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to start with Baltimore. Baltimore, they're honestly in a terrible situation. We said it last week where this is going to come down to week 18, in my opinion. I mean, at the absolute best, they'll finish 10-7 because the second half of the schedule after this bye is easy. Like, out of all the teams that's in like trash situations, they're probably in the best situation because playoff hopes are still alive. But I mean, it's just insane the fact that it's like 10% of teams that start off 1-3, make the playoffs, and now they're 1-5, and they still have a legit shot. I don't think they make the playoffs, but I think after this year, well, Zach Orr is definitely going. I don't see him lasting the entire year. I think Harbaugh, his job is going to be in question. I think you got to look at some different things with Derrick Henry. I mean, he's good and all, but it's like invest money into a receiving core, invest money into more, depth on the outside at corner on defense. And I think Baltimore, you might see some big changes this offseason. And for Buffalo, I've been saying this for a while. I'm not the biggest fan of McDermott as a coach because, in my opinion, when you have a defensive-minded coach and you're consistently losing the playoffs because the defense performs so poorly, I think you have to go. I mean, like, there's no reason why in Buffalo's last 5 playoff losses, they're giving up 35 points per game giving up. And the issue is like these issues we're seeing these past couple of weeks, it's actually the past 3 weeks because against the Saints, they still didn't play that good. These are sort of like foreshadowing of playoff struggles that's going to appear because it happened last year. Last year, they went to Kansas City. Receivers couldn't get open. You had Keon Coleman getting pressed off the line of scrimmage, getting locked up in man-to-man. You had Khalil Shakir struggling to get open in man-to-man. And you saw all last week, they literally could not get open. And the week before, they still couldn't get open. And so Buffalo, in my opinion, they're still going to be good. I still think they'll get the 1 seed in the AFC, up there with Indy. But the issue that I have is, like, once you get to the playoffs, I don't see them even getting over the hump because they can't stop the run. They can't stop the pass. And I don't know what they're going to do in the playoffs.
Yeah, 2 premier AFC juggernauts over the last half decade due to their quarterback play. But these are teams that haven't been able to get over the hump, like you mentioned there, Amir. If this year continues, if it is the same as let's say the Chiefs get hot and they just go represent the AFC yet again, I think you're right. I think both these teams have to really evaluate their coaching situations and maybe just get a new voice of reason to run the show because that could be all you need, especially here in the NFL. We've seen many teams with either a new quarterback or a new coach can change the trajectory of their franchise. Now, on the season, Amir is 1 game up on me as far as our week-to-week game predictions on the money line. Last week we were both 10-5, and I thought I was going to get back. I thought I was going to tie you, Amir, but then the Detroit Lions let me down on Sunday Night Football. I can't bet against Mahomes. I think that's noted. I think that's well documented for me on this channel, and I went against what I've done for now 3 years. But here is the early slate from Thursday night into the 1 o'clock slate. We agree on every single one. Now, I do want to throw one matchup out there. The Jets at home against the Carolina Panthers. If they had Garrett Wilson, I think I'd go with the Jets in that one. It was actually the hardest game for me to predict this week because eventually you need to win, right? With Aaron Glenn at home. The defense has been okay up front. It's the offense that's been putrid. They can't move the football.
That was terrible last week. Terrible last week.
What they have, under 100 total scrimmage yards. That's something that you see in the 80s, 90s.
Yeah, I mean, that was
the early 2000s, but you haven't seen an offense that bad in 20 years. I think, though, that, the Carolina is not the greatest team on the road. You could have taken advantage of that spot. But, of course, they've had some injuries. Justin Fields, his job might be on the line this week. And, unfortunately, with no top receiver, I think Carolina will get it done on the road under Dave Canales. Now, in the mid to late slate, we disagree on the Indy and the Chargers game, but both of us, I had the Chargers first. You questioned, Mark put the Chargers on here. I think we've both gone back and forth on this game multiple times already. And just expect this. In the comments section below, there's going to be a lot of changes before kickoff on Sunday with all of these games. But as of right now, we disagree on one game, and it could be a lot more. Amir, any thoughts on any game here on Sunday, whether in the early slate, the late slate? on Monday night that we haven't talked about that you want to dive into?
Honestly, I think the game, I mean, you just brought it up. I think the Carolina and Jets game, it could change, but I'm gonna be honest. I said this last year. I love Aaron Glenn as a morale coach, as a leader, but it's like even the past couple of years, right? Even with all the injuries defensively, even if you go to 2023, the Lions used to give up a lot of big plays in their secondary and give up so many big plays, so many points in big games to where it was like I was so confused on why people were so demanded for him to be a head coach, in my opinion. And the Jets took a leap of faith, in my opinion, because there's no reason why you should be managing games this bad in crunch time. Like what I saw before the first half or the end of the first half, that was one of the worst clock management moments I think I've ever seen in my life. Like you're at the 50-yard line with 30 seconds left, and the clock just runs out. Like I don't know what Aaron Glenn is doing. I don't know what they're doing. I guess he sort of picked up on like a burning ship defensively because they were terrible last year. But this year the defense still hasn't been that great. They looked good
Yeah.
last week, but they still haven't been that great. And I don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, they have the pieces. I
Yeah.
mean, a very underrated guy on this defensive line is a guy like Will McDonald. That's a guy that doesn't get the credit he deserves because this team is winless at this point
And
in the season.
hey,
Overall,
and
they
and,
have the
and
talent, man.
Sauce got to figure something out. My goodness,
Yeah,
he got to figure
rookie.
something.
Maybe he peaked as a rookie, and then it's now it wasn't a sophomore slump. It's just a slump after that rookie season for Sauce because, like you mentioned, his numbers are going down at a rapid pace. But week 7 is here, and it's been crazy the last few
Yeah.
weeks. We've had a lot of winless get there first, and we've had a lot of undefeateds all fall. So now, week 7, power rankings, it should be a lot of fun. At number 10 for me, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers. I can no longer deny the greatness of this team this season. They're not electric. They're not exciting offensively. They have a bottom 5 offense and defense for yards per game, but they're getting the wins, and that's the only thing that matters. I got them at number 10. And they got a big matchup here Thursday night. They need to continue this momentum coming off of that bye a few weeks ago. Now, the next 4 teams are all kind of in the same range for me. The Denver Broncos, the LA Rams, the Packers, and the Seattle Seahawks. All of these teams have young and exciting defenses. Offensively, they all have decent to good quarterback play. On any given week, they can beat anybody. But I just don't know in the playoffs if I'm going to trust them as some of the teams above them that we'll mention here. The Eagles and the Bills, they've been the top dogs for the majority of the start of the season, but they've fallen a couple of times in recent weeks. They need to get back on the right track, and I think if the playoffs start today, we're all still going to have them going pretty far because of the pedigree that they've already set in years prior, but also they have the quarterback play to take them over the top, if not the system. At number 3 is the Indianapolis Colts. Amir, before the season, of course, I was projecting Anthony Richardson to start. What if I told you I had them slated for 7 wins on the entire season?
You did?
I had them at 7-10 for the
That's crazy.
entire season.
I had them a little more.
I wasn't a big fan of this Colts team, right? I thought there was a lot of holes. I thought they were too Jonathan Taylor reliant. Little did I know, all it took was for a Duke quarterback to go from New York to Indianapolis and to take over and lead the ship. The Daniel Jones is playing like an MVP. So is Jonathan Taylor, and this team is spirited around their new quarterback, and they're one of the best teams in the league. I think right now they are the number 1 seed in the AFC. Shocking the world to say the least. They're this year's Minnesota Vikings, no doubt about it. And number 2 is the Detroit Lions. They were hot, and I think they have looked like overall one of the most consistent teams in the league on a weekly basis, but they lost that game on Sunday night in Arrowhead. Can you win these big time road games? Because hey, if you don't get the number 1 seed in the playoffs, you're going to need to win some of these big time road games. So there's some questions there. I think they get away from the run game way too easily in these big time games. However, at number 2 is the Detroit Lions. I still believe in them, just like I did last year, but I still want to see them win some of these bigger games outside of their division. But that means, Amir, that my preseason hype on this team, that my week-to-week hype on this team has now paid off. I'm no longer, shying away from the fact that I believe in Baker Mayfield. I had him as a top 9 quarterback coming into the season, and it's paying off. He's playing like the MVP of the league, and I got him as the number 1 team in the league despite having all the injuries to the receiving core and on their defense. Todd Bowles, Baker Mayfield, they're putting it all together this season, point blank period. Tampa Bay, I never thought I would say it, but they are the number one team in football. Amir at the bottom of the list, and I'll say this: we have the same top 10 teams, but way different order. And I'll let you kick it off here at the bottom.
So at 10 and 9, I got Pittsburgh and Denver. Like you mentioned, Pittsburgh, they're finding ways to win games. This offense is probably one of the most nastiest 1970s offenses I've ever watched, but they're getting it done. Rodgers is playing great. I think he's thrown for 10 TDs and only 3 picks. He's playing amazing. The defense is garbage, but they're getting better week by week. Denver at 9. I don't know what Sean Payton is doing. I love Sean Payton, but I mean, just like what Joe Brady is doing. I mean, like this offense. It's like Bo Nix is on handcuffs. Like let them throw the ball on the field. The offense is way too inconsistent. Last week was abysmal. They were so reliant on their defense. That's the only thing that kind of concerns me. It's how inconsistent their offense is. Next at 8, 7, 6, and 5. So I got the Rams at 8. The Rams for me, with the injuries, obviously losing Puka is a huge, huge loss. I think on defense they're great up front, but the secondary they have to play better. I think the offense, as good as they aren't as explosive as they could be. It's a lot of game management, a lot of like chewing the clock, a lot of just getting chunk yardage. Every now and then, a nice big play action play. But I mean, without Puka, this team is going to struggle this week. I think they'll still barely win, but they got to basically stall time for him to get back, in my opinion. I got Seattle at 7. Seattle was flat out amazing this past week. I mean, they went to Jacksonville in the heat, the longest trip in the whole entire league, and won. I thought they were going to lose personally on the road, and they got it done. Philly at 6. And so this is where it gets a bit weird. So Philly, obviously, from a roster construction standpoint, they're better than anybody on this list, in my opinion, aside from maybe Detroit. It's just the issue I have with the Philly is like I don't really know who they are, and that's the biggest problem I have is like losing Kellen Moore obviously was their biggest loss coming into this season, but it's just weird because they're so heavily reliant on their talent, which isn't a bad thing, but schematically they look horrible, man. Like last week, Jackson Dart did whatever he want. Their defense was absolutely garbage. They got a plethora of injuries on defense. I mean, they practically have no corners out there. Being able to cover in the slot or on the outside. Offensively, I don't know what Jalen Hurts is doing, but he can't throw the ball more than 10 yards down the field. I mean, overthrowing deep routes every other play. And, I kind of said it earlier in the year where I thought if they get hit in the mouth early, I could see them collapsing. I
Yes.
think we're seeing it right now. I think they will get back on track. But I think a huge knock to their offense as well was like, I mean, Saquon had a huge load last year, and I
Yeah.
think it's really catching up to him. I mean, you can't expect to give him the ball 25 plus times throughout this year. And you also can't go a half where you're giving them the ball only twice. They
Right.
got to find a balance. They got to figure some stuff out. I have Buffalo at 5. I think just based off of Josh Allen, based off of their offensive line, their run game, and just based off of their ceiling as a team, I think they'll be fine. The same thing happened last year where they got smoked against the Ravens and the Texans. They figured it out. They'll figure it out. I have Green Bay at 4. I think Green Bay is the most overrated team in the league, personally. I think they started off good. I thought they were absolutely abysmal at times this past week, but the previous 2 weeks before that, they played terrible against the Cowboys and they played horrible against the Browns. I love Jordan Love, but I said it before. This offense, they have to start treating Josh Jacobs more as like a luxury rather than fully relying on him. Like the same issue you had on JT for the Colts before this year. I have that issue with the Packers. Like last year, they
Yeah.
were so reliant on the run game. This year, it's the same exact thing, and they got to figure some stuff out. Indy's at 3. Indy has an argument to be number one. I mean, like they're
Yeah.
amazing, and me and you both have been high on Shane Steichen before the year. Had them around 10 wins because that thought this keeps popping up in 23 when Gardner Minshew underthrew that check down,
And
and they're
Tyler
this
Goodson.
close to eliminating Stroud and making the playoffs with Gardner Minshew,
Yeah.
and this team is even better since then. And so, I would have had them down as my most surprising team. They're obviously exceeding expectations, but I had decently high expectations for them to begin with. But I think the biggest surprise on this list is Tampa Bay. I mean, like I'm so impressed, man, and like I root for Baker. I love Baker. The one thing that pisses me off is me just getting haunted on Twitter, just saying, "Oh, the Browns shouldn't have let him go." But to be honest, Baker would not be playing like this in Cleveland. Like, I
No.
mean, seriously, like, I mean, with everything that's going on, the game winning drives, and he's doing exactly what he needs to do to just wait until his guys get healthy. I mean, they could very easily have 4 losses right now, but he's closing games out, game winning drives, coming up clutch. And Mike Evans is going to come back. Chris
Yeah.
Godwin is going to come back. Emeka is going to come back eventually. Their O line is going to get healthier. Bucky's going to get back. And it's like, this team is in a spot to dominate in this league this year.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And I got Detroit at one. Detroit going to Arrowhead and losing doesn't really weigh too much for me. I still have them as the best team of football. I think every other team in the league going to Arrowhead while the Chiefs are at risk of being 2-4 and they're pissed off. I think they all would have got smoked just like Detroit personally. So I got Detroit at one still.
You know what's crazy about these top tens? Kansas City's still just going to go and win the AFC and probably win the Super Bowl.
Which is
And
crazy. Isn't that
we're
crazy?
7 weeks into the year and they're not even in our top 10.
That's crazy.
Andy Reid and them are just going to figure it out. Let's not forget Rashee Rice is returning. That's gonna. Hey, look. Speaking about best bets, Amir, if there was any way that you can bet on the first play of the game to be a little a little slant to Rashee Rice, first pass attempt of the game is going to Rashee Rice, is what I'm saying, in that Chiefs offense. I can almost guarantee it because that's just what he is. He plays that Cooper Kupp role to a T for Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes.
Yeah, man. And I think what's scary too was like it's not like he's just coming back at like his normal time. I mean, he's been out 6 weeks, so
Yeah.
now he has even more time to fully
And
recover.
he's
It's
been
gonna get
training
bad.
too.
Yeah,
So he's
it's
been
gonna
with
get
the team. He
bad.
just can't play.
That's scary. That's terrifying.
Yeah, so this guy, it's not like there's going to be a ramp up period. He's ready to play now. He was ready to play week one. But hey, now he's fully rested. He's got the freshest legs on the field, and that could play a big dividend. Week 7 best bets are here. And as much as I'm having the worst streak of my life off the show, on the show, I've hit 6 straight picks. I've swept back-to-back weeks. Amir's not too far behind. You see the records on your screen. But now I'm going to stunt a little bit. I want to go in left field, so to speak. And I want to bet on some players that we don't usually put in our slips. But before we get to the player props, my favorite game line on the week, we're going to Sunday night, the 4 o'clock window. The New York Giants go to Denver, and I'm taking the under 41.5 points. It is 2 run first offenses, 2 really good defenses, and they're in Mile High, right? So it's not a friendly environment for road teams, especially a rookie quarterback in Jackson Dart. Ultimately, I just think that it's going to be an ugly game. It's going to be a 24-10, 24-13 kind of game. And that's my favorite game line on the week. The first under that we've taken this year, so hopefully it doesn't bite me you know where. Now, Amir, you're going with a team that is surprisingly, to me, 1-2 at home. Because I think when we think about this team and this city and the history, it's one of the best home field advantages in football.
I'm going Seattle minus 3.5. I think Houston going to Seattle. I think they're going to have a rough time with this team. The Seahawks just flew all the way to Jacksonville, beat a great team in Jacksonville. Their offense is great. I just don't see, honestly, avenue in which Houston, their offense just clicks out of nowhere. I mean, but with Joe Mixon still being out, they still struggle running the football. Woody Marks had like 100 yards one game and disappeared
Yeah.
the next game. And I mean, it's literally C.J. Stroud rolling out and using his legs, or just throwing it deep to Nico Collins. And so I think that's a huge issue for them. I see their offense being completely dead. And I mean, honestly, I don't really mind much the 1-2 record. I mean, they lost week one against a tough San Fran team at full health, and then
Yeah.
lost to Baker. And so it's like, I mean, those are 2 really tough losses, but I think Seattle wins this game. I think the total is at like 41.5, I think. I also like the under in that game. I'll be careful because I think Seattle can score on anybody this year.
Yeah, look, I am right there with you with Seattle. I'm a big believer. They're both in our top 10, and I think they can handle business. Even though Houston's coming off a bye week, I think Seattle can handle business there. Now, going into our player props, again, I'm going in the left field. If you don't want to tail these, I understand. But on the show, I've been on fire. And I'm going to kick it off on Thursday night in a short week AFC North rivalry matchup. Amir, I saw that you had a prop in this game, and we'll talk about that in a moment. So I wanted to match you. I wanted to go 1-for-1 to get a little 2-leg that you guys can run at home for Thursday night. And last week, I took Josh Jacobs to dominate this terrible Cincinnati run defense, and he did just that. I'm going to continue that trend. Kenneth Gainwell, a guy that has been getting more and more work week after week in this Pittsburgh offense, is the ground and pound back in Pittsburgh's offense. We thought that would be Caleb Johnson. He's not ready for the NFL quite yet. So I'm taking Kenneth Gainwell over 20.5 rushing yards. I don't understand it. Right now, he's averaging about 8 to 10 rushing attempts per game. If he can get 6, I like him to go over 20.5 yards against maybe the worst run defense in the league. So Kenneth Gainwell over 20.5 yards, going in a little bit of left field there, but I think it will hit maybe in the first half. Amir, You're sticking with the Pittsburgh Steelers, but where are you going for the Steelers?
I'm going a 40-year-old quarterback, obviously. Aaron Rodgers over 1.5 passing touchdowns. So surprisingly, he's covered 3 out of 5 games this year. Even last year, he covered 4 out of 6 divisional matchups. This is a game where Pittsburgh, they look great at home this year, especially. I think the game is going to go over. I think it'll be a sneaky, high-scoring game. I think Flacco's going to let it loose. I think this would be a quarterback battle, really just an overall scoring battle. I think he goes over. I think DK could end up in this game with 100 yards receiving, like 150 yards with maybe even 2 touchdowns. I think he throws it deep. The only thing that's a big concern is Calvin Austin just got ruled out. So that kind of takes away, putting pressure on the defense a little bit. But I think Rodgers goes over. If you're not confident in this, I think his passing yards line is at like 210 or something. I like the over on that as well.
Like I brought up at the top of the show, Aaron Rodgers is 234 yards away from passing Tom Brady for the quarterback that has the most passing yards on Thursday night history. So, Aaron Rodgers over 210, I like that line as well. That's something that we could target in the long shot parlay. Now, my other player prop could get bumped up. The official line is not out yet, but I'm going based on what his numbers had been all season long. Mason Taylor last week was playing the toughest defense against the tight end position in the NFL in the Denver Broncos. I mean, the Jets only had like 86 total scrimmage yards in the entire game. This week, they are at home against the Carolina Panthers, who are one of the worst defenses against the tight end position. His line all season has been between 30 to 33 and a half receiving yards. If Garrett Wilson gets ruled out for this game, which he likely will, this line should get bumped up to 40, maybe even 42 yards, and I still like that over. Now, if it gets up to 50, that's where I'm going to drop a different prop in the comment section below. But as of right now, 30 to 40 yards, I love the line for Mason Taylor. This offense should play with a little bit more urgency this week to move the sticks, and I think the easiest way to do that is to get it to Breece Hall and Mason Taylor, Justin Fields. Get your tight end the football, and this is a guy that's covered this line in 2 of the last 3 weeks. Now, Amir, you're going to a line that's been covered in all but one game this season, and that was because that game was a blowout.
So I'm going to a game where this quarterback is going to have to use his legs. I'm going Bo Nix over 15 and a half rushing yards. So honestly, the other line I was going to put up here also as well is Bo Nix for over 9.5 for his longest rush. I think this is a game where playing against the Giants, obviously at home, the Giants are so reliant on their D line. He's going to get pressured all game. I don't care how good your offensive line is. This Giants up front, the way they've been playing, they're going to get pressure instantly. This is a game where he's going to have to use his legs, roll out, and run. And he's smashed his line. I mean, it says it right there,
Yeah.
5 out of 6 games. And the last 4 out of 6 quarterbacks have covered against the Giants. And, last week, Jalen Hurts had 13 yards. Rattler had 21. Herbert had 24. Mahomes only had 2 yards, but then Dak had 17 and Jayden Daniels had 68 yards. So I think this is a game where Bo Nix takes off because he gets pressured, and we only need only just like 2 long runs, and that's it.
Yeah, look, he's covered, like you mentioned, he smashed this line too. It's not like he's getting 15 yards
Yeah.
or 16 yards. He's getting 20, 30. He had a game with 50 rushing yards this season, if I'm not mistaken. But for Bo Nix, I love the line. You know, I'm a big Sean Payton fan. He's one of the best play callers that we've ever seen. Now, if you stay to this point in the show, you get the Thursday night parlay long shot. We'll throw that out there. And I'm going to go in this ugly matchup. I'm staying away from the total. I'm staying away from the sides because the last 2 Thursday nights have been extremely weird. So I'm going to go with DK Metcalf with 4 receptions. We're going to go with Kenneth Gainwell, 15 rushing yards, and Evan McPherson, the kicker of the Cincinnati Bengals, 2 or more field goals. This is a game where I think Cincinnati is going to get into scoring range a ton. And this is a guy in Evan McPherson who's had a field goal in every single game this season. I think now with with Alex Highsmith back in the mix for Pittsburgh, since he's going to be able to move the ball, right? Because they struggle against wide receivers, but I don't know if they're going to be able to score. So Evan McPherson in this divisional matchup should be able to get us 2 field goals for the first time on the season. And again, I like Gainwell's rushing yards. DK's the number 1 and only wide receiver in this Pittsburgh offense. We're all over Pittsburgh in this Thursday night affair. Amir, your thoughts on this little plus 300 that we could run tonight?
I love this, man. I love this. I might nuke this, to be honest. I saw this before the show. I'm like, this look like it's too good to be true. Like this being plus 300 is crazy, but I think a lot of the value is coming from McPherson.
Yes.
But I
He's
mean,
almost even money.
right, and honestly, I mean, you brought up a great point. Like at some point, he's gonna nail 2 field goals. I also love his kicking points. It's probably at like 7.5 or something. But I love this. I think this is gonna cash easy.
Yeah, I mean, if not, Amir will be back next week, and hey, he's had more success getting these plays to cash than I have this season. But week 7 is upon us. It starts tonight. Now, next week, I do want to throw it out there before we get out of here. We're going to start doing some extra stuff on the show. So instead of the same old, next week we have some midseason awards we're going to hand out. So if some of these players want to be named, they have to have a big week. And then the following week, we're going to start talking about this playoff picture because it's been a crazy start to the season. Amir, any last thoughts? Week 7
No,
starts tonight.
no last thoughts, man. It's crazy. It's week 7 already. This is wild. This is insane.